So, welcome to tonight's webinar. Thanks for joining us, especially if you had to battle Storm Emma getting to your computers tonight. We are going to be presenting to you about cryptocurrencies tonight, as you know. My name's James. Mark's also on the webinar, and Mark's going to be supporting me. Mark is the founder of Trade and Train. Perhaps, Mark, for people who aren't already members of Trade and Train and don't know about Trade and Train, do you want to just give them a brief explanation as to what we do?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so first and foremost, thank you all for participating and joining us tonight. So Trade and Train has been a bit of a dream for me to set up, because coming from the retail world, like most of you, learning how to trade isn't an easy thing to get to grasp of, and the people that are out there generally educating you have huge price tickets on courses, and I know because I've paid most of them, and I've done the hard route. We wanted to bring a service not just in Forex, but we're bringing it to you now in crypto, and more importantly, we're bringing it at something that's very, very cost affordable that anyone can get involved in. And obviously crypto is the new hype. It's the thing everyone's talking about, but it's also the thing that no one really knows anything about. And I, just like you guys, am very confused by it. Hence, I brought in an expert, someone that lives, breathes, and sleeps it. One thing I've always been an advocate about is, if you're going to learn something, learn it from someone that is actually doing it, living it, breathing it. And this is why I found James, and I asked if he would be interested in adding to another service that Trade and Train provides, which is I do the FX side of it, and I wanted to expand, and James has agreed to come in and offer a very similar service to what I do. And here we are now with the Lifestyle Crypto Club. So James, please fire away, and guys, enjoy the presentation.
Lovely. All right, thanks very much, Mark. And we will jump straight in then with talking about cryptocurrency. So the idea today, I'd like to just give you, to begin with, I'm going to assume that everyone is starting off, I mean, I'm assuming you've all heard of cryptocurrencies, that's for sure. And we'll have seen it in the news recently. That also is pretty certain. But I'm going to start with the general idea that you know nothing about cryptocurrencies other than the name. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I've found from helping friends and family members through cryptocurrency, their first steps in cryptocurrency, I found that, I'll extend that even further to people like Mark, who is an incredibly experienced trader and investor. Not everything is as obvious as you might think in cryptocurrency. And for someone like me, who's lived it and breathed it for quite a while now, I forget often how much isn't straightforward and as obvious as I now think it is. So don't worry, lots of it is, it might not seem straightforward, but once you get into it, it's all very ABC. But I'm going to explain everything today as if this is your first time hearing about cryptocurrency. So I apologize if this is sort of something that's, some of the content tonight is stuff that you've already heard. Hopefully I'll add a little bit to what you already know, and we'll take it from there. If at any point in the presentation you do have any questions, please feel free to send me those questions through the webinar chat. If there's anything that you ask whilst I'm in conversation about that subject, I'll gladly answer it at the time. And otherwise, we'll definitely come back at the end and review all the questions and go through them in a question and answer in the end. So let's go. This is a little bit about me to begin with. So I had a background working in television and television development. I did the whole career thing. I worked very hard in that industry, really enjoyed it. It was something that for me was very rewarding. It sort of is something that really tickles my creative senses. I absolutely loved it. However, it's alongside that, I've always been interested in the markets and the way the markets function and investments. And I'd also always been interested in technology. So I had some awareness about cryptocurrency since about 2012, which is quite early in cryptocurrency's life cycle. It wasn't until about 2016, however, that I started making some small investments in crypto. And I mean, I really do mean quite small to begin with. But I was too busy. You know, I was too busy with my career. I was too busy with family. I was too busy with just life in general. I'm sure we all know the feeling. You want to do something. You want to read more about stuff. You want to learn more, but you just don't have the time. So I was dabbling in the tech. It was something I was interested in. It was something I was excited about. I knew just a little bit about how the markets themselves function, but I really didn't know a lot. I was by no means an expert. And that was in early 2016. Since then, certainly for the last year and a half, cryptocurrency has completely taken over my life. I've left my career behind. I quit my job. It was something I loved. But unfortunately, television, just like many careers, many 9-to-5s, many office jobs, just doesn't allow you the freedom and flexibility to live your life the way you want to in your free time. So we all know the feeling of having to check emails on weekends and all this kind of business. And obviously, ultimately, you need to start making your money work for you if you really want to get out of the 9-to-5 grind. So I left my career behind, and I can honestly say since then it's been the best decision of my life. I've never looked back. And, you know, the only downside is that for me personally, I work harder than ever. But that is for me very much a sort of make hay whilst the sun shines feeling. And it's because, to be honest with you, cryptocurrency has, in a very sad way, has become my life. I'm very excited about it. It's something that, you know, certainly turns me on. It's something I'm excited about as a tech. So, you know, I eat, sleep and breathe it, which is great because I've built up loads of experience in the field. And right now, obviously, cryptocurrency is getting a lot of attention in the press and people are excited about it. But ultimately, there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of misunderstanding. And it's pretty complicated to get into from a standing start if you aren't technologically minded, or indeed just even if you are technologically minded, a lot of the stuff isn't obvious from the outset. And it's not all regulated to the point where it's very, very clear and concise yet. But we will get there. But in the meantime, let's go over some key points about cryptocurrency. So what is it? Is it a big deal? And what's in it for me? All very good questions. So we're going to try and cover them one by one. Well, Bitcoin was first proposed by an anonymous online persona about 2009 roughly. And the idea of it was really simple in its idea. It was just this guy wanted to create the first online peer-to-peer cash payment system. So you could send cash from one person online to another person online. But the difference was it was going to be that the value of this new system was going to be inherent to itself. So it wasn't going to be linked to fiat currency or real money, pounds, pence, or even anything tangible like gold, for example. It was literally going to be the value was the actual system itself. So if you think of it, it's a bit like he was proposing PayPal, but just instead of me sending £10 or $10 to someone, I was sending 10 of this new currency, this new online digital only currency. And that's how Bitcoin was born. Now, it was the first sort of widely adopted cryptocurrency. And when I say widely, I do very much mean widely within very, very techie spheres. So me and you wouldn't have known about it, but people who were like computer scientists, they were excited about it. But there were a few other examples of similar things around the same time that were coming into existence, around the time of the banking crisis, as a sort of almost rebellion against those, because that system was sort of failing. So that's where it came about. Now, Bitcoin in itself is actually a type of blockchain technology. So that's really what underlies Bitcoin. It's this idea of the blockchain. And all a blockchain is essentially a public ledger of information. So in the case of Bitcoin, that information was numbers. So the blockchain held information as to who owned what amount of Bitcoin at any given time. So the idea there is that you're holding information in a ledger that's public. And the idea that makes that so powerful is that rather than a bank knowing how much money you have in pounds or pence, and if I want to buy something with a debit card, I have to go to a shop and they have to ask the bank, do I have it? Am I good for it? In the case of blockchain technology, there isn't one central body like a bank who holds that information. That information is spread around the whole of the blockchain. So every single computer running the software has that information. So I can't cheat the system. It's completely uncheatable. You can't say you have something that you don't have. It's all online and it's all public. So that's really, really, really powerful. Then came along altcoins. And the altcoins were basically concept very similar to Bitcoin, but just with a slight tweak. So they took the code underlying Bitcoin for the blockchain and they just tweaked it a little bit. So they might have changed little things, like obviously the name is an obvious one, and they changed things like how much data they could hold, how many of this particular currency was ever going to exist. So they could change things, little metrics. But the biggest tweak of all came to altcoins when somebody decided that they could be smart contracts. And basically, smart contracts allowed for all sorts of information to be stored in this digital ledger. So along with a record of who owns what, like the case of Bitcoin, what we had was a record of other information. So that basically these cryptocurrencies, these blockchains, could start to work more like online computers held online distributed amongst many, many people. So if you think of it like almost like the cloud, where we have, you upload data to the cloud now, that's a bit like that. So you actually can have these contracts that sit in the sky hosted by many people, which means, again, you can't cheat the contract. So these lines of code are basically written in. And then just like here, I'll give you an example, actually. So you might have a line of code that in sort of layman's terms says, when wallet, so a wallet is just where, one person's a ledger that says, right, wallet A contains this, in the case of Bitcoin, and wallet B contains this. But in the case of a smart contract, you might have a clause written into the code that says, when wallet A receives confirmation of a certain specified condition, then send wallet B 5 Bitcoin. So essentially, you open up endless opportunities and possibilities for what is already an increasingly global automated world. So you can actually have these blockchains do work for you. So wallet A might be waiting to hear from the blockchain that it's received a signature for a contract, or it might be that it's waiting to receive data from a car, perhaps a driverless car. Say when this car arrives at a certain location, we're going to send this other wallet some money. So you can see it becomes really powerful. And basically, cryptocurrencies and altcoins allow you to own a share in a blockchain's utility. So imagine we create an altcoin, or someone creates an altcoin, which allows for this, contract. Once somebody signs a particular contract, the blockchain automatically sends that other person that signed the contract some money for perhaps the facilitation of a deal that they had. You can see that already we're building utility into the blockchain. And by owning some of that cryptocurrency, that altcoin, you actually get a share in that blockchain's utility. So it's really powerful, actually. And I appreciate that right now, cryptocurrency has attracted some attention. But to be honest with you, a lot of that hype in the media isn't really focused on the technology or the potential. It's more focused on the exciting, sensational stories of this particular cryptocurrency is up 1,000% in a year, and this kind of nonsense. Really, that's hype, and I personally think it's worth sitting up and taking note when you hear something like that, of course, but you have to take it with a pinch of salt, and you have to think, what's the underlying reality here? Is it a bubble? Is it just hype? Is it just sensational? Well, luckily, I believe that there is some serious underlying technology behind it. And I know there's some serious underlying technology behind it. And it is going to be a big deal in our future world. So why is it a big deal? Well, the world is increasingly a global marketplace. Cryptocurrencies, by their very nature, are global in their accessibility. There is no borders for cryptocurrency. The world is increasingly also an online marketplace, I should say, as well. Cryptocurrencies, of course, by their nature, online. That's clearly obvious. It's still really, really early. So despite all those sensational stories, in reality, we're only just at the very, very beginning of cryptocurrencies beginning to be recognized as a genuine financial vehicle for change. Governments are only just starting to take an interest in their potential. Very recently, in America, they had a meeting of the SEC and the CTFC as well, and they wanted to basically assess Senate whether there was a threat of blockchain, whether it was a problem, whether it was a good thing. And they came out with some incredibly positive information for the general public to basically say that blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies are, in effect, the next web. They're the web 3.0. We've had Web 1.0, we've had Web 2.0. These are Web 3.0, and the potential of them is huge. And they essentially have taken the stance that they should encourage their development, and they should leave the incubator there to develop. Because just like with the World Wide Web and America's stance on the World Wide Web when it was first coming into sort of existence, they took the approach that this has huge potential and we should let it run its course. That's exactly the same approach they seem to be wanting to take with blockchain. And that announcement, that meeting at Senate was literally 2 or 3 weeks ago now. So incredibly strong news coming out of America. And obviously that's a great, the canary in the coal mine kind of for the rest of the world. So it's very exciting times to be involved in cryptocurrency. So it is still very early. Institutional investors are just starting to take Bitcoin really seriously. Bitcoin became the first sort of cryptocurrency to launch on CME and SIBO in December, very recent. And I think other cryptocurrencies are likely to follow. So futures markets for Bitcoin for big industry and big retail investors. And then the last bullet point there is network effect. Now, because of the phenomenon known as the network effect, cryptocurrencies, I think, in my opinion, have the best potential for exponential gains of any investment you could make today. So I think it is a big deal. And the last really important point is that they're scarce. If we take Bitcoin as an example, there can only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in existence. So just like gold, they are scarce. So I'll show you the network effect. That's a little graph of the network effect. You can see if you look on the left-hand side, that was in 1900. The y-axis there shows you the percentage of US households. And then if you see there are some lines on the graph, we start with the telephone. You can see from 1990 on the left all the way to the year 2000 on the right, you can see that it's quite a slow S-curve where the adoption rate for a telephone grows slowly over time. And then the same goes for the radio, the refrigerator. But if you go to the right-hand side, you'll see that the internet has a much, much steeper adoption curve, and that only takes us to 2005. I would imagine now we are talking about 100% of US homes have the internet. So as you can imagine, as time goes by, as our world becomes more interconnected, the added value of having these connected devices grows exponentially with the more people, with every single additional user of the network. So as you can imagine, the internet you wouldn't see the benefit of the internet quite so much if it was just me and you having a computer in the world going one-to-one. We may as well just use a telephone or a fax machine. But as soon as we add more users into the network, it becomes exponentially more valuable. So by the time you've got millions of people on the internet, well, now we know we couldn't live without it. And obviously cryptocurrency is very much something in the same ballpark. I wanted to just talk about scarcity on this quick slide. I do love this stat. I'm going to take questions on this. I'm going to take answers here. If every millionaire in the world wanted to own just one Bitcoin, if every millionaire in the world wanted to own just one Bitcoin, what do you think would happen? I'm happy to take answers from people here. I'd love to see what people think. What would happen if every single millionaire, every single current millionaire in the world wanted to own just one Bitcoin? What do we think would happen? Yeah, I've got. Yeah, well, we've had quite a few answers here. Paul says not enough coins available, price would rocket. Well, absolutely. The answer here is if every millionaire in the world wanted to own just one Bitcoin, well, they couldn't. There simply aren't enough Bitcoin in the world. There will never be enough Bitcoin for every single millionaire today to own one. So if you can imagine, the current price of Bitcoin is $10,000. There or thereabouts. It's pushing on $11,000 today. If every millionaire in the world wanted to own a Bitcoin, they actually couldn't own one. So you can imagine with supply and demand, that would mean that prices would very, very quickly start to move very, very high and north of where they are today. So I think that scarcity point is definitely worthwhile noting. And I think that the ultimate point here to bear in mind is, when people ask me, are cryptocurrencies here to stay? I could point to all the evidence I've already given you with regards to the SEC in America and so on and so forth, and big businesses starting to invest serious money in cryptocurrencies and in blockchain. But I guess the one thing I always come back to is, in our current world, in our increasingly digital online world, where even now light bulbs and cars and soon paving slabs are all going to be connected to the internet, do we think that there is a cause or a need for a global digital currency or a global digital way of transferring wealth across borders? And I think the overwhelming answer is that we absolutely do have a need for this. So I think it will exist. Whether it's Bitcoin in 20 years from now that's the leading currency, or wealth, sort of holder of wealth, I think that it's as good a chance as anything right now. And so for me personally as an investor, I want to have a hedge against the current system, just in case in the future every single millionaire in the world wants to own one Bitcoin. I certainly would want to own one Bitcoin today as a hedge, at least, against the current system. So how can we profit? This is where it gets important. How can we profit from cryptocurrencies? Well, we can buy them. We could buy them just to invest in them, just like a tech stock, you know, Amazon or Tesla. We might want to buy those stocks to get an investment in them. And we can do the same with cryptocurrency. We can buy it and hold on to it. And then what else can we do? Well, we can buy at ICO or at token sale, like a venture capitalist. So I should say buy at ICO, of course, not but at ICO. Intentional mistake. I left in to see if everyone's awake. We can buy them at token sale. So these ICOs, as they're called, initial coin offerings, are basically the genesis of a new cryptocurrency. So when I have an idea for a new blockchain idea, a new technology that can run on the blockchain, I can launch it, but I'll do it by launching an ICO. Now, it's taken from the idea of an IPO, but the idea is here, we first generate, let's say, 21 million of this new token. We're going to call it, why don't we call it James Coin? I'm going to launch James Coin, and it's going to be linked to the blockchain in this way, and it's going to do this job. It's going to serve this purpose. If you wanted to get in early, you might invest in it at ICO. So you might buy it before it's even publicly traded on an exchange. You might buy it before, you might buy it directly from the company that's starting. So just like a venture capitalist. Now, obviously, this really turns on its head. This absolutely turns on its head the whole concept of investment models. Back in the day, when if you wanted to invest in Google, you would have had to have been a venture capitalist with huge money behind them. You wouldn't be able to invest in Google when it first started as a retail investor. It just wouldn't have been possible. Google will have gone through venture capital rounds and rounds to earn, you know, and they would have had to have toiled, they'd have to have remortgaged their homes, probably the people who started it, just to get it off the ground and prove the concept. And then down the line, they eventually maybe went public, and then you can buy a share in a company like that. But that is way down the line when it's already taken off. So this turns that on its head. You as a retail investor can buy into these companies on day one, and that's a huge opportunity. Lastly, you can buy these cryptocurrencies just to trade them. So you can intraday trade them, swing trade them, just like a Forex or like a stock trader. So these are the options. But what are the problems? Well, they're confusing. So what's stopping us getting invested right now? Well, they are confusing. There's a few problems, in fact, with cryptocurrency. And to be honest with you, especially if you're juggling a busy life or juggling other investments, you know, you maybe just don't have the time to figure it all out on your own, and it can be confusing. So whilst there is huge potential upside, there are some downsides that we need to be aware of. So they're confusing. There are literally thousands of cryptocurrencies today. The technology is rapidly evolving, so rapidly every day, just because of that network effect as well. How can we keep on top of all of that from a standing start, especially alongside, you know, a day job or other investments that you're managing? It's not even like with cryptocurrency, you can rely on like sort of news gathering services like Reuters or even Bloomberg terminals to keep you up to date on the latest news and things that are impacting the market. Add to that the fact that there are like thousands of cryptocurrency charts that you need to screen for to try and identify potential profitable setups to trade. You know, that is a huge problem. Barriers to entry. So it's a new space, it's a new tech space. They're confusing, they can be bewildering at times. The way that you integrate and operate in the space can be confusing. Given that the space is currently unregulated, there are some barriers to entry just in terms of getting money into the system, for instance. It can be a bit of a minefield. You'd think that was the easiest part. People should be wanting to take your money, but at times it actually can be more difficult just to get your cash into the system and buy your first cryptocurrency. And the next problem is security. People are rightly concerned. Is it a bubble? Is it a hype? Is it a scam? And this security issue is really important. and it shouldn't be glossed over. And I think a lot of resources online would gloss over this. But I think it's important to be aware of the risks. And one of those risks is obviously cybercrime. So hackers. So if you don't know what you're doing in this space and you own a load of Bitcoin, and that's quite valuable. If you own 100 Bitcoin, that's a hell of a lot of money. That's over $1 million at today's rate. So if you own 100 Bitcoin, there might be people who want to steal it from you. And hackers, traditionally, to get money, hackers would hack for information. So they would hack a celebrity's iCloud account and get some photos that they don't want going out into the public. And then they extort that celebrity for money. And we saw that recently with the NHS getting hacked and all this kind of business where they will disable systems and then get people to, send them money in return for re-enabling the systems. And that's how they used to do it. But if you've got cryptocurrency, well, then the information they're hacking is the money. So all they need to do is hack into your Bitcoin wallet and then send it to their own wallet. And then they've taken all your money. So they don't even need to extort anymore. They can just jump to stage 2. So there is a risk you have to be aware of. But don't worry. There are loads of things that once you're aware of them, you can never make those mistakes. And you can be totally safe. Because actually, in reality, these are some of the safest places to store money. Because it's decentralized. It's the equivalent of having your cash in a safe that you only know the code to, or having it under your mattress and locking your door. If you have your money with a bank and the bank goes under, do you have any money? I don't know. Maybe you don't. The government can just start printing money, as we know, quantitative easing. And you've got countries like, examples like Zimbabwe with hyperinflation. Your money might not be worth anything tomorrow. You might have lots of it, but it might not be worth half as much as you thought it was. So with cryptocurrency, you have at least got the security of the code that's inbuilt to the cryptocurrency. So like in the example of Bitcoin, we have 21 million in existence as a maximum. So you kind of have some safeguards against it. So there are benefits against owning cash in the bank. And it is safe because you actually can't hack a Bitcoin wallet. You, however, could accidentally leave your keys lying around, and that would be really silly. And they're things that you can be very quickly guided against doing. And actually, it's much harder to do this than it sounds, but I'm just trying to make you aware of the risks. So yeah, these are things that people are scared of and maybe don't get into the space because of misunderstanding or worries about these kind of issues. So there are lots of bullets to dodge. And of course, where there's money, there are people trying to take that money illicitly. And so there are things like scams in cryptocurrency because they'll go where the money is. So there are some scams that you need to avoid. So what are the solutions? Well, perhaps Crypto Trade and Train, perhaps our crypto club is one of those solutions. How can we help new entrants into the area? Well, we've already been researching this field for the past 2 years plus. And we've, in that time, in this fledgling industry, we've managed to establish our own global network of research pooling. So we're always on top of the latest trends, technologies, token sale offerings. And it's just too much work for one person to do on their own. So by necessity, we, for our own personal needs and investments, we've built these pools globally. And it's quite common that people who got into this space early on have built these networks for themselves. And you pool information. Unfortunately, because things like Bloomberg don't exist, and even for some cryptocurrencies, they don't even have PR departments to put out information in a coordinated way. You, as an investor, would have to go out and find that information yourself. So you have to do a lot more digging. You have to be kind of forensic in your approach to finding news and information about the new technologies. So we've already got those global networks and research pools to share the workload. We already screen hundreds of cryptocurrencies every day. So we're looking at the charts for the technical setups for what will be profitable trades, in our opinion. And we're already screening hundreds of cryptocurrencies. We know which ones are hot and which ones are not, which ones to watch in a month, which ones are ready right now. So we've already got that information to hand. And finally, and most importantly, by a million miles, we've got the experience. This is a field where experience genuinely is everything, not just in terms of stepping over those landmines, the scams and things like that, but it's also understanding how the market functions. Silly things like understanding fundamentally where the best places to trade are, what the safest ways to invest are, the mistakes not to make, and the traps to avoid at all costs. So that's really, really important information. And you can only really gather that over months and years of experience. Right. So these are the things that we provide. So at the Lifestyle Crypto Club, what we one of the things we provide is very, very useful is the crypto news gathering service. So this is going to provide updates on any market altering news that you need to be aware of. Things tend to move really, really fast in cryptocurrency, lightning fast, much faster than other traditional investment markets. So that's really important. So we give our crypto news gathering service. We also have ICO advisory. So access to these token sales. We are always assessing our own token sale opportunities. We've got a network to help research the upcoming ICOs that are coming out. And there are ICOs coming out every week at the moment. And we'll give you our honest appraisal and recommendations of those which we think are worth your attention and your investment. Investments in ICOs can be really small and offer potentially huge gains. ICOs, these are the places where you're hearing all these sensational stories of 10,000% gains, 20,000% gains in a year. ICOs are where those are mostly coming from in cryptocurrency, but there are lots of them, and some of them you don't want to go into, and some of them look really, really great. But you do need to do a bit more digging to get that information and to understand them properly, because quite honestly, some ICOs don't have the technology to back them up. So you do need to have a bit of a technological understanding in the field to figure out which ones from which. So we offer that. We also are going to be offering, if there's enough demand, we're going to be doing our ICO pool access. So increasingly, the best token sales are becoming available to those with the biggest pockets. So this is where we're starting to move back towards that venture capital kind of model, where people with big pockets are the people who are being able to invest in these ICOs, these token sales from day one. And the reason for that is the ICOs, quite honestly, are starting to get greedy. They're starting to realize that actually lots of people want to invest in these things. And so why deal with 10,000 people who invest $100 when you could just deal with one person who's going to invest $10 million, for argument's sake. So as a result, it's getting to the point where they're looking for bigger investors and less of them. And they're also seeing what that investment group can give to them, or what that investment person that's going to invest in their company can offer them in terms of maybe marketing, or in terms of maybe support somehow from their area of expertise in real life. So we're hoping that by pooling our resources, which is something we already do with other groups, we're going to pool our ICO and get better access to the hot ICOs through private investment rounds, which normally wouldn't be available to us as retail investors. So this is becoming a more pressing issue. So that's something we definitely want to look into with you. We also are going to have video tutorials. So every week we're going to have video tutorials delivered on YouTube with a private link to give you special insight into the markets, all the setups that we're looking at, and general news affecting the crypto space. So we'll have regular video tutorials. Crypto insights. So regular insight into which cryptocurrencies are hot and which are not, what we're watching, what we'll be accumulating, what we'll be selling, and what those buy triggers and zones are in terms of price. So we're going to be doing a crypto of the week as one of our videos, where we go through systematically each cryptocurrency in order, biggest to smallest, or just whatever's hot that particular week if it's pressing. We're going to go through everything from the fundamentals, how that crypto came into being, who are the people running it, what the business idea is behind it in the blockchain, the token metrics, and the recent price action, and where to watch to accumulate it, or even if we would want to accumulate it at all. So we'll do a crypto a week. We're also going to have a monthly video on ICOs. So we'll do a monthly video on ICOs. That's more than plenty for ICOs. We're going to do our market, of course, the market appraisal service. So once a week, we're going to have a market insight video, which is going to give you very, very clear picture of the market in general, how things are moving, news you need to be aware of, things that are going on in the space, and what's to come in the week to follow. And then most importantly, and most excitingly and valuable of all, we have a signals service. And our signal service is going to give you up to the second access to our very own investment techniques and tips. So we have a private Telegram messenger group. So if you're not familiar with Telegram, it's very similar to WhatsApp. It's kind of a more business orientated version of WhatsApp. And that will mean that you get smartphone updates direct to your phone up to the minute. And that's going to update you on our target buy and sell zones on particular currencies, the ones we're watching up to the minute, and also when those buy and sell zones trigger. and where we're going to be setting our stop losses and where we're going to be setting our profit targets. We'll also send out through that signal service any big market events that are coming up or that we're aware of, or things that are triggering. So really there's loads of value in the signal service in particular just on its own, without the catalogue of videos and everything else that we're building in. The signal service in itself is incredibly valuable. You're essentially getting any trades that we're entering, we're going to let you know about. So thanks for listening. I'll leave you with a chart up on the screen. This is a technical analysis chart of a cryptocurrency called ZCL, which stands for Zed Classic, and this is charted against the US dollar here. This is a trade that we were in from early December. It was about 31 days, early December to early January this year. And as you can see in those 30 days, we entered on fundamental analysis. So fundamental analysis is sort of news. We knew of a news event that was going to affect this coin. We got in nice and early. And then 31 days later, that was a 19,000% price increase, which is obviously incredible. And that's the beauty of cryptocurrency. When the fundamental analysis, which is sort of a news event, a trigger, aligns with the technical analysis, which is the charting, the price action charting, the historical price trends. When those two things align, that's when you get these incredible price increases. So 31 days, if you'd invested $1,000 in this trade that we did, 31 days later, that $1,000 would have been worth $197,000. It's obviously absolutely incredible. So these are possible in cryptocurrency, and I think they're unique in their potential in this regard. So in terms of from an investment potential standpoint and from a trading potential standpoint, these cryptocurrency really is very, very exciting. And of course, there is incredible upside potential, but it is more volatile. So this is something you need to manage. So it's very important to anyone who ever asks me, how do I get involved in cryptocurrency? I always say, you need to know what you're doing, because the upside is also measured out by a downside, and it's important to understand and to play your strategy right. And for sure, as being a member of our Lifestyle Crypto Club, I truly believe that we're going to be able to help you through the first steps and then build you up a strategy which you can follow for the future that will guarantee you a better chance at long-term profits rather than these short-term price gains that you can see on screen right now, which sure, if you hit one of those once, that's amazing. We're going to try and get more than one, but you also need to worry about the downside, and that's the biggest part of it, is protecting yourself against the downside so that these winners aren't outweighed by eventual losers. So this is obviously all great. We've had a question just come in, which I'll just quickly advance. This is also available for beginners. Absolutely. Heck just sent a question about if this is, because this is offered to beginners. It is offered to beginners. We think it's a great starting point for any beginner. It's also for people who are experienced, because honestly, cryptocurrency is something different to what you might be used to if you're an experienced investor or trader. And we will absolutely be doing a session to get everyone set up and ready. There's already, we launched, our pre-launch was today. We've just launched, and all of our members already, we have 35 members today who already started benefiting from day one on lots of information. We've put videos out on how to get started. We've sent emails out. So it is all ready to go. And if you're a beginner, this is a great starting point. Absolutely, Heck. Thanks for the question. The Lifestyle Crypto Club, everything that we've talked about so far, all of that value is just £79 a month we offer it for. But because you're here today, we are offering a pre-launch offer. So just because we're starting today, we're offering a £45 a month membership to the Lifestyle Crypto Club. That's just for 24 hours only. We're offering that. It's just because it's day one. Mark has just sent a link into the group there. If you want to subscribe, you click on that link and you will be able to get the pre-launch offer using our pre-launch offer code. And this really is a one-off. It's 24 hours. We're offering this for to people who are in the webinar today. It's the promo code is all one word, launch offer. You can see it in the chat box there. And this is offering some unrivaled value, I think, which unfortunately we'll never see again after today's pre-launch offer. But it is, I think, a really great opportunity, and you will stay on that £45 a month offer for as long as you stay a member. So I'll pass back to Mark. If you have any questions, please do send them into the chat box, and we'll come to those in a moment.
Hi, guys. So I've had the privilege of watching this presentation twice now, and I've got to say, each time I pick up a little bit more. I think, was it Hex mentioned about tutorials and how to set up. We've actually already published on YouTube our first tutorial, which is literally for anyone, just to assist in how you actually buy your first cryptocurrency. But for members, you're going to find that there's going to be a whole host of tutorials that will be coming through to you as members in a private room on how to start. So literally, it'll cover things, which brokerages to start with, where to deposit, your currency, how to transfer your first Bitcoin, how to transfer Litecoin, how to buy your altcoins, how to use the brokerage in terms of charting, because it's slightly different to probably your more traditional brokerages that we use on MetaTrader 4. A question came in earlier from Mantis, I believe, asking about, can he trade Bitcoin with his broker rather than using one of the more traditional crypto brokers? And the answer is, well, if your broker has it as a symbol, and you can do that by looking in your quote window, if it's there, then yes, you can trade that, and it'll be as a leveraged product. From Angel, can I trade cryptocurrency on my Learn to Trade funded account? I have no idea, Angel. I'm not sure if Capital Index have cryptocurrency or not. I really don't know. So that's not something I can answer. Sorry about that, Angel.
Is it right if I just jump in there for a second, Mark?
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to add to that, actually. You're quite right. I mean, there are increasingly, which is obviously a very good sign for crypto people, that increasingly typical Forex trading sites and so forth, like Capital Index as an example, they're starting to offer products, like Ethereum, like Bitcoin. They're starting to offer these products. But unfortunately, with these kind of traditional trading sites, whilst you can trade them on leverage, which you can do through the more traditional crypto sites as well, but the trouble here is that you're not actually owning any of the underlying asset. So if in the case of Bitcoin, you were to go long Bitcoin if you were to go long Bitcoin because you thought Bitcoin's value was going to increase, that's great. But unfortunately, you don't actually own any Bitcoin. So with the traditional cryptocurrency exchanges, with the proper cryptocurrency exchanges, what you're getting is you're actually getting a share in the underlying asset, which is really, really important if you think about it. Because if you believe in the technology, if you believe the space is going to grow, you would really want a share in the underlying asset. You don't want to just be buying a contract for difference or something like that. So I think it's really important from an investment perspective, because what you can do is you can, if you just want to invest, you definitely need to be buying the cryptocurrency itself. And that means using a cryptocurrency exchange, a cryptocurrency broker, which we'll talk you all through once you're members. We've got already a raft of information to help you through that process, because I appreciate for some people, especially people who are already on a particular, on a particular brokerage, it can be a bit daunting to have to move money or to have to get started on a new one or understand a whole new system. I do appreciate that's tricky, but I think it's really, really important that people understand that they need to actually own the underlying asset to invest in cryptocurrency, because in cryptocurrency, owning the keys, your private keys, is the equivalent of owning the cash in your hand. Whereas if you use one of these other more traditional brokerages, quite often it's more equivalent to an IOU, I suppose. Excuse me. So I think it's really important to make that distinction. And then, so it was a really good question, actually. On the flip side, if you wanted to trade cryptocurrencies, so intraday trade them, I think there's a really great opportunity there, because cryptocurrencies are volatile. So there's lots of movement, lots of price movement equals lots of trade setups that you can profit from, both going long or going short. And I think if you want to do that on a traditional exchange, you can do that. But I think what's worth noting is that if you're doing that, you're only really exposing yourself to Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin, maybe if you're lucky Ripple. I think eToro have launched Ripple recently. but there are hundreds of cryptocurrencies. And to be perfectly honest with you, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin, they're probably really good investments for the long term. So you'd want to own the underlying asset because they've got really strong technology. However, the smaller cryptocurrencies, which a lot of these traditional brokerages aren't offering and probably won't be offering anytime soon, the smaller altcoins and the smaller cryptocurrencies are where the really high, amazing gains are potentially there to be had. So if I just pop back on the slide, you mean this ZCL, that 19,000% gain, you just won't see that on a brokerage like Capital Index. I don't think they ever will. And the problem is as well, I mean, even if you did, if you went long ZCL on Capital Index at 19,000% gains, I'm not even sure that they'd honour that. I think you'd hit the breakers very quickly. So yeah, I think there is an important distinction to be made, and I think the real benefit with cryptocurrency is please, whether you're with us or with someone else or on your own, please do invest in the underlying asset. Please go to a crypto brokerage and actually own the cryptocurrency, because otherwise I think you're really missing out on the potential huge upside. And I want you to take advantage of cryptocurrency and the opportunity it's giving in terms of all the hundreds of cryptocurrencies that are out there, rather than just the 3 or 4 that traditional brokerages feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm just going to add something on there, James, as well, because for my personal preference in terms of crypto, because I actually believe in the blockchain technology as well. For me, it's about diversification of investment. So obviously, one of the questions that I got asked from my FX members was, Mark, we're doing really, really, really well with FX. Why do you want to invest in anything else if we're creating the returns that we are doing? And what I said to them was, it's like why would you invest in different shares? Why do entrepreneurs have multiple businesses? Why do people have a job and invest in property? Or why do they have a company and invest in property? It's about diversification. And also, because it is so early in the network effect, do I see the gains in Bitcoin now? Or do I see the gains in a new altcoin? And really, as James has already mentioned in the webinars, the only place we're going to see those really, really unheard of returns are in the new altcoins. So for me, this is the space that I really want to get involved in. And in all honesty, I need someone to guide the way and hold my hand. And anything that I do, I always get mentors. And so in this industry right now, James is my mentor, and I've always had mentors. So I've got to say I'm very excited, but at the same point, I know the risks that are involved with it. So it's about using a proportion of your portfolio and saying, right, what am I prepared to risk? Because it is highly volatile, but at the same point, with risk comes reward. So this is the kind of thing that you have to think about. It's not all Hail Marys, and I'm not going to be using it for day-to-day trading as such, but James has already been pumping out some trades in the group, and one of them made 30% this morning on ZCL. Was it this morning or yesterday?
Yesterday, 30% in 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean, 30%. I mean, how long do we have to wait in trading FX to make those returns? But that was a call sent out, and you'll see it in the group when you become a member. I was like, are you kidding me? 30% in a morning's work. It's unbelievable. So
yeah, that was actually, funnily enough, Mark, that was that last chart I just put up on the screen was an old chart of ZCL, and the beauty of that is, this is what I love about, but I suppose this applies to traditional charting of forex and things, is that once you've set your chart up, sometimes the price action falls right back into those areas, and your old technical analysis becomes relevant again. And I saw that pop up. I mean, we officially launched today, but I already had members in the Telegram group waiting yesterday, and I thought, well, this is a golden opportunity. Let me let them know. And like I said, it just fell into your hands with something like that. The fundamental analysis lined up with the technical analysis once again with ZCL, and it instantly was obvious where the target was because it was already on my chart from previous technical analysis, and it was just a case of placing the order and away we go.
So, guys, do we have any questions in the room that we put the link in. I can see a couple
I think
of people.
I did see a question, I think. Somebody asked whether we'll be able to send the slides to attendees because they've got to step out. Assuming we've got your contact details, which I think we do, Mark does, we can send you a copy of the webinar. So that's good. If you've missed anything today or you were late arriving, we can send you a copy. I think Mark actually already covered that. Sorry about that, Mark.
I just said if they can email us, we'll send out the link for tonight's webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a question here, capital index. Yeah, they only have, capital index, right, exactly. They have Ethereum and Bitcoin, and the spread is really, really high as well. This is the thing, when we're trading or investing in the underlying asset directly, the spreads in Bitcoin, I think the spread in Bitcoin earlier on, I was looking at it, was like $3 between bid and ask. So, really basically nothing. Whereas I think if you use things like eToro, they're going to, absolutely, capital index, you're going to get absurd spreads because I suppose that's where they get their margin as well. Just scrolling up to see if there are any other questions that we've missed. Let's have a look. Here we go. Yeah, I think that one of the questions that was worth me just popping one more mention over was that, I know I briefly touched upon this question in the flow of the seminar, but the question about beginners, is this suitable for beginners? Well, absolutely. Like if you've never traded before, if you've never invested in anything like this before, then this is absolutely suitable for beginners, because what we're going to do is we're going to treat everybody, whether you're an expert trader, whether you're an expert investor, whether you're 18 or 80, we're going to treat everyone exactly the same from day one. And that is that there's no question too silly. I mean, I've been flooded with questions already today by email, as Mark's probably seen in the inbox as well, and I've been pumping out answers to people. Simple questions. They're the things that put people off getting involved in a space like this, which is new, which is a little bit, still a little bit Wild West. It's not clear. Things aren't explained in ABC terms yet. And that's why experience in this field is really, really valuable. And, actually, I've had friends for the last couple of months trying to get in touch with me via all sorts of channels, phone, text message, Facebook, everywhere, Instagram even. People who I haven't spoken to in years coming to talk to me, asking me about how do I get involved? How do I start off in crypto? And so it's been really, really clear to me. And when we were setting this up, me and Mark, it was very, very clear to us that there's a growing gap between people's interest in the space and the knowledge base that's available out there. And that's why me and Mark were keen to get this up and running as soon as possible. And I think Mark can sympathize because he's been exactly in those shoes very recently. And, and I remember, and, I do need to remind myself often, and Mark does a good job of reminding me that, there is no question too silly and there's nothing too obvious to explain. So for beginners, we're absolutely going to start from the start. Whether you've never, charted before with technical analysis, we're going to help you out with that for sure. And in terms of building a strategy, we're going to help you out with that for sure. And just in terms of cryptocurrency itself, understanding the landscape, understanding how the cryptocurrency exactly works, how to trade it, what trading even means, how to set stop losses, how to place your orders. We're going to go through that step by step with every single piece of software that we use, so that you can see it, and we'll do it both text and also in video explanations. And we will hold a monthly webinar, potentially if there's enough demand for it, we'll do them slightly more often, where we'll take questions live and show people things live on the web. Is there a Eileen's asked a question here. Eileen's asked, Demi, just to say, are we still there? He's lost sound. Yes, we're still here, Demi. I'll just reply in the chat in case he's lost sound. Demi, we're still here. I take it everyone can still hear us. I've had a question. Is there any regulatory body that's vetting the organisation that sets up ICOs? Well, ICOs, the whole space of cryptocurrency and ICOs in general, and ICOs, I should say, the whole space is unregulated as yet. And every country is having to go through their own process of due diligence to work out, what they want to do about the space. And I think in most cases, maybe apart from China as the main example. But I think in most cases, countries are thinking, well, rather than regulating this out of existence, how can we profit from it? How can we make it something that's regulated, that the public are protected from, that retail investors aren't going to get stung by scams? How can we set ourselves up to protect, but also not to stunt the growth? Because there is, any new technology, as we've seen with tech, the tech industry, there's huge potential. And let's be honest, the world is changing. The way that the world functions economically is changing. Things are becoming more automated. Traditional manufacturing jobs are reducing, things are getting automated, and that's a trend that's going to continue into the future. And so there is a new economic movement that says that we do need to be open to change, and therefore governments for sure are interested in this technology and how it can help their future economies and indeed the world economy. So right now, I couldn't give you a single answer as to is there a regulatory body. Each country is having to address it in their own way. And I know, for example, that token sales right now, ICOs, are being considered as, most of them are being considered as securities in America. And so they are open to token sales asking to be recognized as a security and be regulated by the SEC in America, and then no problem. But the majority of ICOs at the moment, because they're not willing to go through the process yet, because it's only just been established, they haven't been able to, they aren't able to have ICOs in America. So if you're an American investor, you won't be allowed to invest in these ICOs, which is a real shame. But what it means is that because Americans aren't able to invest in the ICOs, what's happening is people invest in the ICOs who are not from America. And then as soon as the ICO launches, as soon as the cryptocurrency launches and it goes live on a traded exchange, on a brokerage, all the Americans want to do is buy the ICO that they couldn't buy when it was an ICO. So they buy the cryptocurrency, the underlying asset later. And obviously that helps push prices up. So ICOs are really great. But unfortunately for Americans at the moment, it's a little bit more awkward. But I must say the Americans have been very forward thinking about things like ICOs. So in the future, I imagine many more ICOs will be opening themselves up to American investors by going through the right channels. But at the moment, in terms of taxation and things like that, there's a lot of grey areas. So I think the best advice in cryptocurrency, and advice I take on board, is just keep strong records and keep money aside for potential tax implications down the line, and investigate your particular country's laws and tax regulations, and just put yourself in the most secure position, because there's great upside in cryptocurrency, but you want to make sure that you're protected for the future and that you're going to be able to cover any bills that come down the line. But right now, I think it is a lot of grey areas, and every country is individual and different. So definitely worth reading up on that. And that's information we'll gladly put through the club as well, as and when it comes through. There was another question here. James, do you cash in your Bitcoins from time to time? Great question, Norrie. Here's the thing. It depends what you want your Bitcoins for, really. Every day, Bitcoin's price is changing, just because it's traded 24/7, 365 days a year. So the price is subject to supply and demand. It's constantly changing. So yeah, I mean, if I owned 10 Bitcoins right now, and I had a strong feeling because of market sentiment and because of price action, I had a strong feeling that the value of Bitcoin was going to be 10% less tomorrow, then of course I'm going to use the exchange to sell my Bitcoin and then buy it back at the cheaper price. But in general, I think a lot of people in cryptocurrency who see a great future for the cryptocurrency, they're trying to accumulate Bitcoin. They're not really in the business of trying to lose their Bitcoin. So that's why, to give their Bitcoin back, I should say. So that's why I really think a great way to manage cryptocurrency investments is to have your investments, accumulate them at the right prices, and in the ones that have fundamentally good fundamentals underlying them, good technology underlying them, and a great future ahead of them. Accumulate those at the right prices, and then if you think there's going to be a market downturn, use some of your Bitcoin in a leveraged short against the market to protect you against downside. So actually you can end up then really profiting, accumulating Bitcoin even when the market's downturning. And then of course, when and if the market returns and rebounds and reverses, you're really laughing because you've actually now got more Bitcoin, and also your dollar value has gone up as well. So we have strategies. We're going to put out to the group loads of strategies like that that come from experience in the market. And that's hopefully something that will become really, really useful in time to members of the club. Royston, what happens if after, say, 6 months or a year, a crypto club member decides to leave? How do they realize profits from their share in the asset? Royston, I take it that that was your question in relation to the ICO pooling. I'll answer as if it is. Let me know if I've misunderstood your question. Yeah, that's right. Okay, Royston. So with the ICO pools, that's something we haven't, ICO pools in themselves are not something that we've worked out and ironed out all the details yet, because we want you guys to be protected, obviously. The way that ICOs work, though, is that you're buying into the underlying asset. So say, for example, we'll go back to good old James coin. So say I want to launch James coin, a new ICO with a blockchain technology underlying it, and it's going to have this cryptocurrency that's going to get you a share in it in some way, and share of profits due to the base linked to the utility of the product. And I decide, Royston, you want to get into this. Royston, you're going to invest in the ICO. So I'm going to say, right, these are our token metrics. So we're going to create 1,000 of our new currency. We're going to make 1,000 of them, and that's all that there's ever going to be made. And if you want to buy one of my James tokens at the start before we launch, you make a commitment to buy one of those, and I might say that they're only going to be $1. So you might be able to buy one of James coin for just $1. The thing is, as soon as I generate those coins, as soon as I build the code online in the blockchain and generate those coins, I then send you your token. So I send you to your private address, Royston. I send you that one James token because you've already pre-committed to buy it. So as soon as I generate it, which generally speaking is within a month, if not within a week of the private sale, of the sale itself, of the ICO, I then have to send you it. So you then own it privately in your wallet. So no one can ever take that away from you. So in the case of an ICO pool, what we'll do is we pool the resources. So we say, right, Royston, you want to invest half a Bitcoin. Somebody else, John, you want to invest 1 Bitcoin. And then we pull that together and we go to the people running James Token and say, right, we want to invest 10 Bitcoin in James Token. How many tokens are you going to give us? Then all we do is, as soon as they send us the tokens, we then send them out to the individuals in the pool. So Royston, you get your share. John, you get your share. And then, of course, the benefit of that is that if you decide to leave the crypto club, it's no problem because you already own the underlying asset. And that really nicely links back to my point about using the proper crypto exchanges, because ultimately you always want to own the underlying asset so that you have ultimate security and that you're not at the hands of bad actors or indeed just problems or mistakes happening that are out of your hands. You want to own the underlying asset. You wouldn't trust someone with your car keys unless you knew them very well. So, you do the same thing. You wouldn't leave your car keys or your front door keys hanging outside your front door. You'd keep them inside or safely in your own pocket. And that's exactly what you want to do with cryptocurrencies. And with the ICOs, it works the same way. You take the underlying asset into your own control. As soon as we get it sent to us in the pool, we send it out. I'm already a member of a number of pools myself for my own personal benefit and investment benefit, to try and get access to better ICOs. And we can definitely benefit from that as a group, and we'll benefit from that as a group. But I'm already in pools myself, and that's just how they work. Andrew asked, can you let me know what the minimum we need to fund our crypto broker account to start with? And the answer to that is as little or as much as you like. There is no limit. I think that because of the potential exponential gains in cryptocurrency, you really don't have to start with a huge amount to get going. And actually, to some extent, because the swings are bigger in crypto than in other investments, it's actually psychologically really nice to start with a reasonably comfortable amount, whatever that is to you, whether that's £500 or £5,000. It's a really great place to start where you're super comfortable and you're protected against the downside, and your upside are exponential gains. And then, you take out your trade capital that you invested and just play with your profit. It's amazing. And I think that's a great question, Andrew. I think the answer is, there is no minimum. So by all means, start with as little or as much as you're comfortable with. But I would always say start with something you're comfortable with trading. Mark, I don't know if you've got anything to add to anything that I've said. I think that we've covered all the questions at this point.
Yeah, I think all the questions have been covered. Like, if there are any additional questions that you think of, please send those. In fact, let me just, I'll put you the email address to send them to. I'll just put that in the chat now. So crypto. So if you do have any questions that you think of that might not have been covered tonight, please send those into crypto@tradeandtrain.com. and we'll be happy to answer those. Like we said, the offer, the pre-launch offer, is available until midnight tomorrow night. As of tomorrow night, it will go up to the £79 per month. But, you know, we are here. We've got plenty of knowledge. Or when I say we, James has plenty of knowledge, because I am just like you. Probably less knowledgeable than most of you that are actually listening right now in terms of the crypto space. So I'm here. I'm looking to diversify, and you know, I don't think there's a better place. I mean, I look at what other services are out there in the marketplace right now, and they're all 3 digits minimum for any kind of service like this. So we are massively undercutting the market, and we can do that because we've streamlined everything, and we're working very, very smartly, but we've streamlined everything so we can put it out at a very, very good price to you. So like I said, I think that's enough. We've kept you all listening.
Mark, I'd just like, if you don't mind, I'll just chip in there as well.
Yeah.
The beauty as well of joining us through the Lifestyle Crypto Club is that we're part of a bigger team, a part of a very experienced team in Forex and investment and trading Forex and investing. And, you know, there's nothing like having that sort of bigger brother to look after you, I guess. And that's what attracted me to join Mark. Obviously, Mark's a friend anyway. But what attracted me really to join Mark in building this is that you've already got a great community. And, you know, if you go on the website, for the purchase, you know, have a browse around, you'll see that there are testimonials on there from guys that I now know and have met who, you know, you really can't put a price on those kind of testimonials. And that's exactly what we're building here with the Crypto Club. And we want to sort of work in mirror image of the FX guys. And I think by joining our club, you also get the benefit of knowing that you're part of a bigger team that are here to stay and that, you know, have proven results.
So guys, it is a Thursday night. We're 9:15, and no doubt you've all had a pretty long day and ready to open a bottle of wine or just put your feet up in front of the fire. So thanks for your time. We appreciate you taking the time out to listen to what James is going to be putting out there to you all. So have a lovely evening. And like I said, if you've got any questions, please fire those in. Cheers. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night. Take care. Bye-bye.